Albatross, the wind rider across the great seas. In the vast emptiness of the Southern Ocean, where waves tower like moving mountains and winds howl without mercy, a magnificent bird glides effortlessly above the chaos. The albatross, with wings stretching wider than the height of most humans, has mastered the art of flight in ways that defy human comprehension. These extraordinary seabirds spend most of their lives in the air, traveling thousands of miles across open ocean with barely a wing beat, riding invisible rivers of wind that stream across the Earth's most remote waters. Masters of dynamic soaring, the albatross's relationship with wind is nothing short of miraculous. While other birds must flap their wings constantly to stay aloft, albatrosses have evolved a flight technique called dynamic soaring that allows them to harvest energy directly from the wind itself. This remarkable method involves flying in a continuous loop pattern through different wind speeds at varying altitudes, essentially using wind gradients as an endless power source. The physics behind dynamic soaring is elegant in its complexity. An albatross begins by climbing into the wind, gaining altitude while losing airspeed. At the peak of its climb, it turns and descends with the wind at its back, accelerating as it drops toward the ocean surface, where wind speeds are slower due to friction with the water. Just above the waves, the bird banks sharply and turns back into the wind, using its accumulated speed to climb once more. This figure-8 pattern, repeated endlessly, allows albatrosses to travel vast distances while expending minimal energy. Some can fly for hours without a single flap of their massive wings. The wandering albatross, the largest of all albatross species, possesses the longest wingspan of any living bird, measuring up to 11.5 feet from tip to tip. These wings are not designed for flapping but for gliding, long and narrow with a high aspect ratio that maximizes lift while minimizing drag. The bones within these wings are hollow and reinforced with internal struts, creating structures that are simultaneously lightweight and incredibly strong, capable of withstanding the tremendous forces generated during flight through storm force winds. A lifespan at sea. Albatrosses are among the most pelagic of all birds, meaning they spend the vast majority of their lives over open ocean, far from land. Some species may not touch land for years at a time, except when they return to remote islands to breed. Young albatrosses, after fledging from their nests, may spend 5 to 10 years entirely at sea before returning to land for the first time since leaving as chicks. During these oceanic wanderings, albatrosses cover extraordinary distances. Satellite tracking studies have revealed that a single albatross can circumnavigate the entire Southern Ocean multiple times in a single year, traveling more than 75,000 miles annually. One tracked wandering albatross completed a foraging trip of 3,700 miles in just 12 days while caring for its chick, flying at average speeds of over 50 miles per hour. These birds are truly citizens of the wind, their home not any particular place, but the dynamic boundary between ocean and sky. The albatross's feeding strategy reflects its nomadic lifestyle. These birds are opportunistic feeders, consuming squid, fish, and crustaceans that they catch from the ocean surface. They are particularly attracted to areas where deep ocean currents well up, bringing nutrients to the surface and creating feeding opportunities. Albatrosses have an exceptional sense of smell, rare among birds, which allows them to detect the scent of krill and fish oils from miles away, guiding them to productive feeding grounds across otherwise featureless seas. Their feeding technique is patient and methodical. Albatrosses typically feed by sitting on the water surface and seizing prey items that come within reach, though they can also make shallow dives. Many species follow fishing vessels, feeding on discarded bycatch and offal, a behavior that has unfortunately increased their contact with longline fishing operations, contributing to population declines in several species. Ancient mariners and lifelong bonds. Albatrosses are among the longest-lived birds on Earth, with some individuals documented to live over 70 years in the wild. This exceptional longevity is matched by their reproductive strategy, which is among the slowest of any bird species. Albatrosses do not reach sexual maturity until they are 6 to 10 years old, and even then, they may spend several more years practicing courtship behaviors before actually breeding. When young albatrosses return to their natal colonies for the first time, they engage in elaborate courtship dances that can last for years before a pair bond is formed. These dances are spectacular displays involving synchronized movements, bill clapping, wings spreading, and vocalizations that can include moans, groans, and whinnies. Different albatross species have distinct dance patterns, and individuals must learn and perfect these complex sequences through practice with multiple potential partners. Once an albatross pair forms a bond, it typically lasts for life, which in the case of these long-lived birds can mean decades of partnership. However, albatross monogamy comes with a unique challenge. The partners may spend most of the year thousands of miles apart, traveling independently across vast ocean expanses. Yet when breeding season arrives, pairs reunite at the same nesting site, often within days of each other, after navigating across thousands of miles of open ocean. This remarkable feat of navigation and timing speaks to abilities we are only beginning to understand. Albatross reproduction is an investment that spans nearly an entire year. Females lay a single egg, which both parents take turns incubating for about 2 to 3 months. After hatching, the chick requires intensive care for another 3 to 10 months, depending on the species, before it fledges. During this extended chick rearing period, parents may travel hundreds or thousands of miles on foraging trips lasting several days, returning to regurgitate meals for their hungry offspring. The slow reproductive rate means that albatross populations are particularly vulnerable to increased adult mortality. A breeding pair may successfully raise only one chick every 2 years, and many breeding attempts fail due to predation, weather, or food scarcity. This low reproductive output means that populations cannot quickly recover from declines, making conservation efforts critical. The perils of modern seas. Despite their mastery of wind and wave, albatrosses face unprecedented challenges in the modern world. 19 of the 22 albatross species are currently threatened with extinction, making them one of the most endangered bird families on Earth. The primary threats to these magnificent birds are disturbingly mundane: fishing hooks, plastic pollution, and climate change. Longline fishing poses the single greatest threat to albatross populations worldwide. These fishing operations deploy lines stretching for dozens of miles, baited with thousands of hooks. As the baited lines are set, albatrosses diving for the bait become hooked and are dragged underwater, where they drown. Tens of thousands of albatrosses die this way each year. The impact is catastrophic for populations that already reproduce slowly. The loss of even a small percentage of breeding adults each year can drive a population toward extinction. Plastic pollution presents another insidious threat. Albatrosses feed by surface seizing, picking up objects floating on the ocean surface. In today's oceans, a significant portion of these floating objects are plastic fragments that resemble natural prey items. Adult albatrosses inadvertently collect these plastic pieces and feed them to their chicks, whose stomachs gradually fill with indigestible material. Chicks have been found dead with stomachs packed full of bottle caps, lighters, toothbrushes, and other plastic debris, essentially starving to death while feeling full. Climate change threatens albatrosses in more subtle but equally concerning ways. Changing wind patterns may affect their ability to forage efficiently, as these birds depend on predictable wind systems for their dynamic soaring technique. Warming ocean temperatures alter the distribution and abundance of prey species, forcing albatrosses to travel farther or to less productive waters to find food. Rising seas threaten nesting colonies on low-lying islands, while changing weather patterns increase the frequency of severe storms that can destroy nests and kill chicks. Invasive species on breeding islands compound these threats. Rats, cats, and pigs introduced to remote islands by human activities prey on albatross eggs and chicks. Adult albatrosses, having evolved on predator-free islands, have no defenses against these introduced mammals and often sit passively on their nests even as predators attack. Conservation in action. The plight of albatrosses has sparked international conservation efforts that offer hope for these remarkable birds. The Agreement on the Conservation of Albatrosses and Petrels, an international treaty, coordinates conservation actions across the ranges of these far-traveling species. Member countries work together to reduce bycatch, eradicate invasive species from breeding islands, and monitor populations. Fisheries management has emerged as a critical conservation tool. Simple, cost-effective measures can dramatically reduce albatross bycatch in longline fisheries. These include setting lines at night when albatrosses are less active, adding weights to lines, so they sink quickly beyond the diving range of birds, and using bird-scaring lines, brightly colored streamers that trail behind vessels and deter birds from approaching baited hooks. In areas where these measures have been consistently implemented, albatross bycatch has been reduced by up to 95%. Invasive species eradication on breeding islands has produced remarkable recovery stories. On islands where rats and other predators have been removed, albatross breeding success has increased dramatically. These eradication programs, while expensive and complex, represent one of the most effective conservation interventions available for seabirds. Scientists are also working to better understand albatross biology and behavior through cutting-edge technology. Lightweight GPS trackers and satellite tags reveal the oceanic wanderings of individual birds in unprecedented detail, identifying critical foraging areas that need protection. Drones survey breeding colonies more efficiently and with less disturbance than traditional ground surveys. Genetic studies reveal population structures and help identify distinct populations that may require separate management strategies. Symbols of the wild ocean. Albatrosses have long captured human imagination. In maritime culture, these birds have been regarded with a mixture of reverence and superstition. Sailors considered albatrosses to be the souls of dead mariners, and killing one was thought to bring terrible luck, a belief famously captured in Samuel Taylor Coleridge's poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, where a sailor's killing of an albatross brings disaster upon his ship. This cultural significance reflects a deeper truth. Albatrosses are ambassadors of the wild ocean, reminders of the vast, untrammeled spaces that still exist on our planet. In an age when human influence touches nearly every ecosystem on Earth, albatrosses maintain lives that are still largely free, governed by wind and wave rather than human schedules and boundaries. The albatross's ability to extract energy from the wind, to navigate across featureless oceans, to maintain lifelong partnerships despite long separations, and to live for human-length lifespans while raising just a handful of offspring represents a fundamentally different way of being in the world. These birds challenge our assumptions about what success looks like in nature. It is not always about rapid reproduction and quick returns, but sometimes about patience, endurance, and an intimate knowledge of place and partner. The future of wind riders. The fate of albatrosses will depend largely on human choices in the coming decades. Will we implement fishing practices that allow these birds to feed safely? Will we reduce plastic pollution in the oceans they call home? Will we address climate change before it fundamentally alters the wind and water systems that albatrosses have navigated for millions of years? The answers to these questions will determine not only whether albatrosses survive, but what kind of world we choose to inhabit. A world without albatrosses would be one where the open ocean has been so degraded that even its most perfectly adapted inhabitants cannot persist. Conversely, a world where albatrosses thrive would be one where we have learned to share the seas sustainably, where our fishing practices are designed with other marine life in mind, and where we take responsibility for the waste we generate. Albatrosses have survived for millions of years by perfecting their partnership with the wind. They are older than most mountain ranges, having watched continents drift and climates shift. They have endured ice ages and warm periods, adapted to changing seas and evolving prey. Their evolutionary success speaks to a deep wisdom about how to persist in a changing world, efficiency, patience, and fidelity to partner and place. As we work to ensure their survival, we might do well to learn from their example. In the albatross's effortless glide across storm-tossed seas, we see proof that elegance and efficiency are not mutually exclusive, that it is possible to travel far while carrying little, and that partnerships built on patience and commitment can endure across vast distances and long years. These wind riders of the great seas have much to teach us, if we are wise enough to listen and humble enough to act on what we learn. The albatross remains one of nature's supreme achievements, a living testament to the power of evolution to craft solutions to the challenges of existence that are both elegant and effective. In protecting these remarkable birds, we protect not just a species, but a way of being in the world that honors patience, partnership, and the wild freedom of the open ocean.